Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. That's right. How can I say? Only you can make the change. How can I say your head and your shine so bright from darkness to light. Hey, hey, hey. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it won't seem way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Peace, peace, peace. This is DJ Genesis, and this is your show. And I'm your host of Alchemizing Energy. And I am so excited to talk about the second day of the jury selection of the Karmelo Anthony trial. Things are beginning to get heated up. One thing I did find out is that guy, what's his name, Jason Lang, he actually ended up getting arrested. I thought that he probably would have been like up there, and I knew he was gonna come. He did. Is his name Jason Lang or what's his something Lang? What's his name? John Lang, Jason Lang. I gotta figure out what the guy's name is. I forget his name sometimes because he's just such a non-factor. But he's always starting crap all the time. Jake Lang. I heard that Jake Lang got arrested, yesterday. So I was happy for that because I know that he would have been out there causing a whole stir. He couldn't wait. He was already causing a stir in New Jersey like the day before. And so, yeah. So we got like some updates from Sarah Fields. She's been like a big I guess a person that is a polarizing voice in this whole thing, mainly for her I would say she's almost similar to a Jason Lang, or like, it's like they're a lot of like rhetoric behind like really trying to kind of like, I mean, it's gotten crazy. She's gotten doxxed. She's saying that people are doxing her and, things like that. It's gotten pretty interesting. So she has a GoFundMe and everything like that. We'll get into what she has to say, but yeah, she said that we're going to get into what she says about the jury selection. But first we're going to do get into some of the things that the jury actually said that I found pretty interesting. Karmelo Anthony trial and the Knicks are in the finals tonight. Crazy similar. So there is Karmelo Anthony. Did he play for the Knicks? Is that him? I don't follow basketball. So the other Karmelo Anthony, is he like play for the Knicks? Well, nevertheless, it's a lot going on. So let's hear from some of the people that are actually at the trial. I am considering going up there. I got to make sure I got my tags and everything. So he used to play for the right. I got to get my tags right. I can't be going up in Frisco, even though I'm not that far from Frisco. I can't be going up there with no bold tags. So I got to get my tags and stuff right so I can actually get out there and see what's going on. So I will. He's retired now. Okay. I will be up there. I just got to make sure all my paperwork is correct, y'all, because I'm not trying to be up in Frisco. I would, even if there wasn't a trial, I wouldn't be riding up in Frisco with no bold tags. Okay, that's not the spot to be up, at the courthouse with some expired tags. So, but I will be up there. You're gonna see me live up there as well, reporting on site at the space. So let's hear some of the things that were said. Shouts out to Queen Sheba for this these details that she was able to bring to the table. Let's get into it. Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
They had some challenges within the courthouse, so we did not get started on time day one, but I am live here back there. You can see the Collin County Courthouse, and actually today was day 2. So they have gotten jury selections underway, and each side has 1 hour and 45 minutes. We're talking the state and also the defense. So the state went first this morning, and I want to talk a little bit about the prosecutor. He's good. When I tell you slick, clean, slick as grease, and I mean that in a very positive way. He's very likable. He's light on his feet. He's knowledgeable. He doesn't come across as authoritative. He does a really good job of navigating the jurors, answering the questions that they have. He just feels like a good next door guy, like an all-American guy. He's approachable.
Well, you know what? From what I'm hearing is that they're not going to know who is selected until I think the end of either jury selection or something like that. They're not going to know who's the alternate and who's the real jurors until the very end. So let's go.
He smiles. He's not taking himself too serious. He found ways to really implement just a light tone to this very serious case, right? And he's doing a really good job of presenting himself. He's doing a really good job of managing his relationships with the jurors. So I think I believe the prosecution has gotten off to a really fantastic start. When I looked at the state and their team, you have the main prosecutor, and it looks like there's 4 people on the team from what I can see. The prosecutor himself, which would be 2 men and 2 women. The defense is going to have their 1 hour and 45 minutes after we come back from break. And from what I can see, the defense has 3 people. 1 man, which is the primary defense. 2 men and 1 woman. I did see Karmelo Anthony today. So let me tell you a little bit about Karmelo. And when I cover cases, I know you guys aren't able to be here in the courtroom. So what I would like to do is give you my view and give you my experience so that you can feel like you are here. Or you were here with me. So Karmelo is wearing a navy suit today, really nice blue navy suit. His hair is a clean cut haircut, okay? I think when this occurred, he had a different look, but he's a clean cut. He has on a nice soft pink shirt with the blue tie. Now, I'm not in the same courtroom because we're not allowed in there right now. So we're only watching it from like a television screen in an overflow room. He looks well-groomed. He seems very lean. I didn't see him when he stood up, but he seems to be a very lean young man. There were times he did smile when the prosecutor asked juror number 5, did you break the speed limit today? So I did catch him smiling. But let's get into it. So, when I tell you, juror number 142 stated that he would not feel comfortable putting a brother in jail.
Oh, man.
Those were his.
Honey, if you want to make sure you don't get selected, you say those words, sir. What are you talking about? What? Who? He must have not wanted to be selected. He said, I got to go to work. I don't know how long this is going to last. Let me go ahead and take myself about the box immediately. Okay. When he said that, he made sure he was not going to get selected. What?
His exact words. He's saying, listen, there was a lot going on today with these jurors, but juror number 42, he kept it real. And he says, I don't think this is the proper case for me when we talk about fairness. What you're looking for is a fair jury pool. I don't feel comfortable putting a brother in jail. And this led to the prosecutor stating, listen, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about race. Nobody wants to be on this case, right? And race could affect or determine guilt versus innocence. And the prosecutor also stated that in his 31 years of being in law and prosecuting cases, this is his first time ever having this type of conversation with jurors, okay? And he said he's never had this talk before. And he says that it's probably the time to do it in America, to have, this type of conversation, because they need to know how the jurors are feeling about this. Could race play a part in this case? And I'm going to tell you.
Man, let me tell you something. Would you want to be on this case as a juror? would you want to be on this case? Like, I mean, black, white, indifferent. Would you want to be on a case like this with so much backlash? I don't know if I would want to be on such of a polarizing case, because if whatever way it goes, you're gonna have either some death threats coming from one side. If you either way, you're gonna have some. If he gets acquitted or whatever, it's gonna be some backlash on that end. If he gets a thing, it's gonna be some backlash on. How many people would want to be on a jury like this? I think the guy was honest. Maybe he probably should have kept it to himself. But I guess he said, "I don't want to be a part of this." I mean, I don't know. Did anybody ever get their hair braided in the courtroom before? I don't know. Why are we saying that for? Listen, I wouldn't, because he ain't do nothing to me, and I don't know the story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, right. Well, yeah. Well, that's interesting that he said that. That sounds like he just want to take himself out the box immediately. Let's go.
And I'm going to remind you of some statistics. If this is your first time here with me, welcome. But when day one of the trial, I gave you the rundown. Collin County is predominantly 62% white. And the brother, juror number 142, said out loud, "I don't feel comfortable locking Karmelo up," right? But then you had other white jurors that followed in his footsteps. Juror number 24, which was a white woman. She says, "I can't do it. He's a kid. I'm looking at him. This is a child." This is what she's saying. She said, "He made a mistake. He made a very bad decision." She said, "I don't feel comfortable charging a kid and putting him away for life. I just couldn't do it."
Wow. So you know what's going to happen to them? It's going to be the ones that don't mind to put them away. That's not props. Because if those people are honest and say, "I couldn't put him away," but then you have other jurors that will, that's where it gets kind of sticky at. I don't know. But he got rid of those people quick. They got up off of there.
That's what she said. That was juror number 24. Juror number 198, juror number 199, they shared the same sentiment. Now, if you remember the other day, juror number 199 is the same juror that asked the judge, "What happens if we can't agree? What happens if we go into deliberations and we're not able to agree?" And remember, I told you, the judge said, "You're not going to do that in my court."
Wow. So if we can't agree, you're not going to do that in my court. But let me tell you, the ones that are speaking out the loudest, those are the ones that probably he would have had a chance with. That's interesting. So the jurors that would probably be on his side are eliminating themselves off rip. That is something. So what sentence do you think he should get for what he did? I don't know. Manslaughter, maybe. I don't think he should go for murder. I don't think that he should get like a life in prison. Because I think I don't think that he really was trying to kill the guy, but let's go.
So then 199 comes back and says, "Well, you know what? Don't pick me. This is just not a good week for me." So the prosecutor takes over. That they're giving the jurors an opportunity to ask questions, to speak to why they would or would not make a great juror, or why they should or should not be. And
I think it's interesting that the prosecutors kept the ones that were asking questions about like due process and stuff like that. It seemed like they would have been knocked off the box the first day, but he still kept them. So it sounds like the prosecutor is at least trying to appear to be somewhat fair. I don't know. Let's see.
Prosecutor explained there's two phases, right? There's a guilt and innocence phase. And he said, I kind of like to explain it like a snapshot. Your job is to figure out or to determine, did the state prove that this person committed the crime? That's it in that phase, in the guilt and innocence phase. That's your only job, not the details. Did the state prove that the defendant, commit the crime? He said, then we have the punishment phase, right? That's the photo op. That's where you get the full scope of everything. Who is this person? What is their background? How were they raised? Any trauma, school? Do they have a history of violence? That's when we really get into the details of who they are, right? And in the state of Texas, the punishment phase is 5 to 99 years, but it seems like Collin County, they're asking for 20 years. Okay.
20 years. So here is so this is the reason what I thought. I said that why wouldn't he get a manslaughter charge? Why did it go straight to murder? Why didn't they go? Because it seemed like that was a heat of the moment type of a situation. It seemed more of a manslaughter, but maybe I don't think that but I guess the fact that he said, "Hey, you touch me, you see what happens." That's the part that puts it into a murder, first degree murder. because he said those words, and then I guess, yeah. So, but I would think that if he probably wouldn't have said all this stuff, then it would probably be along the lines of a manslaughter situation. Manslaughter is the unlawful killing of a human being without premeditation or malice or afterthought. It's generally treated less severe than murder and is classified into two preliminary categories: voluntary and involuntary. So it seems like that's what it should have been had he not have said what he said prior to. So I think that's where it goes into first degree situation. Because it like there's some level of premeditation when you say certain words. I think that's where they're getting this premeditated kind of like first degree thing.
But there was a lot of conversation today regarding life. Can you consider issuing a life sentence? Which takes us to juror number 105. Juror number 105 says, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep well at night being on this case. I have to do what would lead to me being able to have a good night's rest. And I can't promise you that I would be able to make a decision where I can lay my head down and feel good about what I've done. Okay. So then she says, can you tell me or give me the definition of beyond a reasonable doubt? The prosecutor says, we don't do that. We cannot tell you that. The state cannot define that for you. As a juror, you have the freedom as a critical thinker you have to be able to determine that yourself. By law, we cannot give you the definition of that. So then juror number 142, let's see.
Wait a minute. Why didn't she hold on? Why didn't she just look that up on Google? Why did she have to wait until she got in front of the judge? I mean, that was weird. Can you tell me what this means? Well, sir, this is like Google. You could have Googled that up. What does it mean? Some of these people I think that they don't want to leave. They don't want to be out of work for 2 weeks. And so they find excuses. Or they're just really selfish. like people are more worried about themselves being able to sleep at night. Like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, so I'm not fixing to do it. Interesting.
Juror number 142. This was no, not 142. I think it was juror number 41 that says, well, let's talk about race since we're talking about race. And this was a white woman. She says you have to admit that race does play a critical role in the severity of the punishment. So even if we try to take race off the table, it's still on the table. And I think what she was insinuating, she's saying, listen, we're all savvy enough to know that different races receive different punishment based on the color of their skin. And these are, like I said, these are the constituents of this community in Collin County. Again, 62% white. And I think when I say, I'm talking about the entire community, right? So we had over 600 potential jurors to show up. They were able to eliminate 100 the other day. They're down to 500. So what the judge wants to do is trim it down to half. And these people are thinking out the box. Not holding back. Now, some of this you can tell that they just not want to be here. One person said,
I don't think she knew her sound was down. Hold on.
If you had to go in there and make a decision morally, could you do that? And 41 says, this is not the right case for me. I can't do that for you. Okay.
Wow.
So 237 is a white woman who is a teacher here in Collin County. She said, listen, I'm an educator. And I believe that you have to be able to separate the behavior from the person. I think she was saying the behavior from the race, but that's what she said. That's what I wrote down. My notes could be wrong, but I think I'm pretty accurate. And then number 34 told number 34, who's a woman, she said, listen, I have sons. I have always told my sons to defend themselves. So I don't think I'm the right person for this. She says, I have 2 sons. I've raised them well.
How many jurors was like, I'm not the right person, bro? Man, it sounded like everybody was like, hey, my name is Bennett and I am not in it. Listen, I think people know, they understand the aftermath of what could happen with the wrong, on either side, some people might have black friends that live in a neighborhood that they know black people in it. And if they got to choose, hey, you know what? I had to choose it, because they're going to release who the jurors are, at least by the end of this thing. And all those people could be, I'm not sure if they have to hide who the juror, I'm not sure how that works, but I think people know that after this, there could be some backlash. So I think that people are protecting themselves.
But you best believe, I always tell them, you have to defend yourself. And she said, now, I don't want them using knives or guns. And the courtroom erupted in laughter. But she said, I have always had that talk with my sons. You must defend yourself if you're ever in that type of position. So then the prosecutor transitions to self-defense. What constitutes self-defense in the state of Texas? This is very interesting. What he did share is that self-defense. Let me get my other note. I want to make sure I'm on track. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I think I may have left it in the courtroom. He's saying you have no other choice but to use deadly force. That's what the state of Texas constitutes as self-defense. Self-defense means I had no other choice. This was the only option. Okay. And he says words alone do not warrant self-defense. You cannot provoke a person and then use deadly force and say, hey, I was defending myself. He said that does not constitute as self-defense in Texas. You cannot provoke and then take a life. You can't say, hey, come over here. Your mom is this and that. And so basically what he's saying is, I believe that Karmelo Anthony's self-defense stance is flawed because I'm guessing you're going to get into the details of the case a little bit later, that they're going to poke holes in that theory. He says, in order to justify the legality of self-defense, you cannot be a provoker. You cannot be a provoker at all.
Wow. So I think that's the reason why they couldn't do manslaughter, was because of the fact that it seemed at some level that he was provoking at some point, maybe by even going underneath the thing, even though it was raining. No, it's Frisco, Texas. It's in Frisco, Texas, so you think the white folks are going to riot? I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that, it's Collin County. I don't think the police are going to let too much go down. As you can see, it's relatively empty over there. I don't think they're not playing over there. That's a very rich county. That's where a lot of money's at. That is not where you want to be acting a fool at. You know what I'm saying? You do not want to be out there acting like a fool in Collin County. You know what I'm saying? So let's go.
So I believe the state is asking, I have my notes here, for 20 years. In the state of Texas, they do receive a wide range of the ask, which is 5 to 99. They can ask anywhere between 5 to 99. And when I tell you, there were a lot of jurors that straight up, they said, I can't consider life. A white woman, juror number 32 said, I cannot consider life. Juror number 42 says, listen, this is a kid. He looks like a kid. He says he needs an opportunity to learn. I can't send him to prison for life. There was a lot of that today.
So can you imagine? How many people is he going to be able to listen? I mean, the prosecutor is going to find the jurors that are probably going to get closest to what he wants. And when you have people automatically just coming out the blocks with like, I can't give him life. I'm not going to be able to do it. I can't do it. I mean, listen, he's going to comb through all those people, and the defense is going to have to just comb through the people that are willing to put him down. That's interesting. Let's go.
Juror number 42, juror number 32 was a white male. Juror number 42 is a white woman that says, I want him to learn, but I don't think sending him to prison for the rest of his life will give him the opportunity. That is a kid. Then we had another juror, and he says, how old is he? That's exactly what he says to the prosecutor. He says, excuse me, how old is he? And the prosecutor says, sir.
That's crazy how the jury don't know what's going on in the case. Where are these jurors coming from? Are they out in the woods? How old is he? I mean, have they watched the news? I mean, they found a good jury pool. People don't even know what's going on in the case. So, okay, that's good. But then they're all like, no, I can't do it.
I can't tell you that. He said, well, he looks like a kid to me. I'm not the right person for this case.
Oh, man.
Juror number 92. Juror number 123 says, I will not deliberate. Don't pick me. If I go back there, I refuse to participate.
Oh, man.
Juror number 232, juror number 169, they cannot issue punishment. Even if they were selected, they don't feel good sending him to prison. Okay. And then we had a teacher, number 100. She says, I don't think people understand proportionality. She said, it's going to be so important for you to get critical thinkers in that deliberation room. You can't just be putting people back there. This is bigger than just white and black. She didn't say that, but I'm paraphrasing. She said, proportionality is so important. She says, this is a kid. We have so many things to consider. We have to consider background. We have to consider trauma. We have to consider our kids.
You know what's so crazy? You know, back in the day, do you know how many black men that I can tell you that went to prison at even younger than this young man, probably 16, when they first began to prosecute teenagers back when drugs and like the crack epidemic in the 90s. Do you know how many young men went to prison? Like 17, 16, 18, 16, 15, went to adult prison. But it's interesting now. I think people are more aware of like what they're doing. So it's like, man, I can't. They can't find these new people probably have seen like that go on, and they're like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. To put someone behind bars for the rest of their life.
Even able to be reasonable, right, and think like adults. She says, I can consider both ends, but you need other people in the room that can also do the same. She says, so they go, well, if we were to select you, are you saying you could be fair? She's saying, yes, I could be fair, but I don't think everybody else could be. Not in those words, but paraphrasing, right? Juror number 129, who was also a white woman, says, I would have a hard time giving Karmelo Anthony 5 years. She said it would be hard for me to even give him 5 years.
5 years. So this tells a lot, guys, that even the white jurors that they selected, a lot of white people are like, man, I couldn't, because you would think it would be like, yeah, throw him up underneath. So I just want to like put a shout out to the people that actually understand that, that, man, this is a young man's life that I have in my hands, and they are really weighing that, But it's kind of sad that they're taking themselves out of the box on the whole situation, because it's going to be left with people that wouldn't mind doing that. That like, hey, this is a monster, blah, 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 So that's scary.
Juror number 256 says, well, I could punish him, but I would probably lean to the lower side of the punishment. And the prosecutor says, does that mean you can't consider life, or is it off the table? Juror number 256 responded, he's a kid. Life is off the table for me. Y'all.
Wow.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Oh my God. Man, just like that, how many, a bunch of people off rip are saying they couldn't do it. They couldn't give him life. Now, I don't know if the prosecutor is really trying to push heavy for life, if he might just want 20, like the minimum at least sentence. But I can almost guarantee you he's a prosecutor. He's going to want to go for the fullest. That, that's his record on the line, as a lawyer. He's not going to want to go for the lowest. He's going to want to go for the highest amount he can get, because that makes him a good prosecutor. So these people saying they couldn't give him life, they're already out the box, because he gets to choose at the end of the day. Like, I think the defense gets to go and then the prosecutor gets to choose or something like that. I think that's how it goes. I'm not sure. I forget. It's like the defense get to pick their ones and the prosecutor get to pick his ones, and he get the final say. Prosecutor does. So these people are already out the box, all off the rip. They never had teenage takeovers in the 90s either. What is teenage takeovers? What is that? I don't get what you're saying there. They don't want to get involved. They're scared. Yeah, I'd be scared too. Because like I said, if it goes either way, you're gonna be getting hollered at by some people. You know what I'm saying? If anything goes down.
I thought I had it figured out. I thought I'm bad. What are your thoughts? So we're almost done. Juror number 350 says, who was a white male, he said, and I think he was just trying to get out of jury duty. He says, I'm not considering any range of punishment, period. Juror 350 also asked the state, can you clarify life? And the state says, in this situation, we're talking life with the possibility of parole. Juror number 319 says they could not consider life. That's reserved for hardened criminals. He doesn't believe Karmelo Anthony is a hardened criminal. Juror number 296, this is the final one, says, what if it was in the heat of the moment? What if a crime is committed in the heat of the moment, to which the prosecutor responded? Well, in the state of Texas, in order for it to be considered the heat of the moment, that means that person would have had absolutely no time to cool off, right? And then he used an example of a case that he said that recently has been tried in the state of Texas, where a father walked into a bar and witnessed his ranch hand molesting his daughter, and he killed the ranch hand. in the heat of the moment. He said, that's an example of the heat of the moment. That's an example of when punishment goes from 20 years to 2 years. Okay. So that's all I have right now. This is the first half of the morning. I'm going to come back and let you know how jury selections continue as the defense team takes the floor with their 1 hour and 45 minutes.
So, what are they afraid of? So, I'm not sure if you guys, I'm going to show you a little bit of what happened prior to this trial, like even getting underway. There was a lot of racial tension behind this trial when it first happened, and people are probably afraid of the racial backlash because it got already labeled into racism. You had like the white nationalists come out. You had a lot of racial tension going on when this thing first started. And anybody that watched the news back then, I'm sure these jurors have, they probably are looking at their family like, I don't want to put my family at risk if I have to make a decision. So what do you say? What is it called? Car jacket. These people in neighborhoods will turn on them. Okay, so is that what that whole thing is? That teenage takeovers. What is a teenage takeover? Yeah, these are white people. Like it's majority of white area. You might have had a few black people sprinkled in that jury, but Collin County is majority white, 67%, and black. Then Latino, then black. So you're probably gonna have maybe like maybe I would say maybe 10 black people, and the rest are gonna be Hispanic and white. I can guarantee you. So it's interesting. So a white person being able to choose and say like, listen, I don't think he should get. It's almost like in their own way, they're still taking. They're saying that I would rather not be on the jury than to pardon him because of my own, thoughts and feelings about a young kid going to jail. So that's the part. We all know what you meant by being scared. The only one that's going to be rioting is the black people. Let's be real. I'm not saying I said people do death threats. Say if they decided to, the ones that are pulling out are the ones that say they would acquit him. So say if they're the ones that, because you have to have all the juries have to agree, and you have 3 or 4 that just will not agree, and you end up with a hung jury. And these people are the reason why. Who do you think is going to go after them? The black people or the white people? Who do you think are going to give the death threats to those jurors if they can't make a decision on putting this guy in jail for life? Understood? You know what I'm saying? May, you think it's about rioting. I'm like, no, it's about what they charge him at the end with, if they charge him with murder or not. If they have a hung jury and they're the jury that created a hung jury, people gonna come after them. That's what I'm saying. That's what they're afraid of. That's what I believe. I mean, let's be real. Why we gotta go straight into rioting? we gotta cut that out. We automatically just go right to the worst thing ever. So later on, she came up and she had the second where she talked about like finally how everything went down, and it got pretty interesting. Like the judge had to reprimand the defense. Let's get into it.
In the late stages of jury selection, and I wrote down this is going to be a dog fight. The defense team was reprimanded by the judge, and I think Mike Howard is a very technical lead defense attorney, right? And you can tell in his delivery today. He came in, oh, Lord McKinney, y'all got these bugs, but listen, I'm under the tree with the bugs.
Welcome to Texas. Welcome to Texas.
Ready to go. And he had to be reprimanded today by the judge. As a matter of fact, the judge called both teams to the bench. The prosecution, the state objected 2 times during his questioning and his assessment of the jury. Y'all, I was speechless. He literally started to defend the case. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I think he's ready to go. And when the judge said the other day, we want to get this thing done, I think the defense is ready to go. He came in hot and heavy, and I'm telling y'all, this is going to be a dog fight in that courtroom. Now, this is what led to me writing this, okay? At one point, I got my notes, hold on. It was about self-defense and the laws around self-defense. Earlier, I walked you through the prosecution and how they laid out what self-defense is in the state of Texas. Well, the defense gets the opportunity to do the same thing. So the defense shifted their questioning to the jury and began to explain self-defense. And he stated that in Texas, under Texas law, an individual is justified in using force if they reasonably believe that another individual is going to inflict or use unlawfully force on them. So if you believe that during in an exchange with me that I am going to use unlawful force on you, according to the defense, I can use unlawful force on you. And I don't have to wait for you to do it if I reasonably believe that you are going to use unlawful force on me. That's one aspect of self-defense. And then they shifted into deadly defense. I'm sorry, deadly force, deadly force. What constitutes deadly force in the state of Texas? Well, the defense went on to say, let's say you are at a public place, and I'm telling you what he's saying. This is what got him reprimanded. Let's just say you're at a public place, and you, it is, hold on, I'm gonna have to use my foot. What's happening? Oh, it's a lot of bugs out here, a lot. So I'm gonna have to try to use my foot. So the defense begins to use an example of self-defense. He said self-defense is also justified if you are in a place where you have every right, do you get it, to be there. So let's just say, according to the defense, you're in a public place where you have every right to be there. That qualifies as self-defense. Give me 1 second, because it's a bit windy. So we want to make sure, there we go. Okay. We want to make sure we're good to go. Hold on. It's fine. Thank you for your patience. All right. So he let's see if I can do this. So the defense goes on to say, or establish, what he started to do was he started to try the trial and start to establish that Karmelo Anthony had every right to be in that stadium. And although he didn't say it, that's where he was going. So the state said objection, and it was sustained. And then he did it again because he said, let's just say you're in a public place where you have a right to be there, and you're not required to retreat in this public place. And there's an individual that's provoking you, an individual that you feel may use unlawful force on you. Objection, Your Honor, sustained. So the judge reprimanded the defense and said, I need you to reframe your question, right? And the judge did a good job with that. Let me tell you why. Right now is not the time to try the case, but the defense is ready. You can tell he's ready to try this case. I think he's coming out the blocks hot, but the state is ready too, because the state stood up. They were ready to go. They were ready to interject. They were ready to object, and they did a few times in that courtroom today. The defense had a hard time to me. I'm going to say this. When it comes to presentation and being able to articulate your points, I feel the state has an advantage. That's just my personal opinion. I feel the prosecutor did a really good job of articulating himself this morning and really getting in there to ensure that from his perspective, the jurors understand the law that he needed them to understand. I feel like he did a really good job of minimizing any type of confusion, and they didn't have a lot of questions around the law, but that's where I feel the state has an advantage. The defense is ready to go. You can tell. You can tell he's a defense attorney, right? He's technical. He's savvy. He's tricky. That's a word I want to use. He's tricky, not dishonest, but tricky, because he knows how to get in there and completely disrupt anything or any foundation that the state may try to lay down. He introduced a lot of components, I'm telling you, that completely blew my mind. Things that I didn't know were perfectly legal. Things that you probably didn't know. The question I think that we all have.
So I'm going with the people that are there. There's not that many people that are there that are reporting on this. So I'm going with the people that are out here reporting and talking about, what's happening, and, when you try to use certain new media outlets, you might have a problem. So I have to go with the people that are kind of regular content creators versus the news, because sometimes it can get shaky on what you could play. So
Why would Karmelo Anthony take a knife, right, to a school event? Well, the defense explained. He said, you have a constitutional right in the state of Texas to carry. And the state of Texas grants you the right to carry openly guns, right? So we're like, yeah. And I'm learning this and I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, you have a right to open carry. He said, did you know, and or are you aware that that same law gives you the right or gives way to carry a small knife? Look, tricky. A small knife under 5.5 inches into a public place. I'm like, what? And I'm
That's not, are they giving their bag too early? Are they telling too much of their case too early? Are they doing too much too soon? This is jury selection, right? And they're pretty much giving the prosecutors their argument already. That's interesting.
sure the jury was like, what? So some of the jurors said, we did not know that it's perfectly legal. He said, even if you're a teenager, it is perfectly legal under the same law, just like some of you carry your guns. It's perfectly legal for a teenager to carry a knife, even a teen, into a public place. I guess I consciously, I guess if I think about it, and for those of you that are tuned in, if you think about it, so well, I'll be damned. Huh? Because the moral question that many of us have been faced with is, why did he have a knife, right?
You know what? That actually was his father. I gotta I gotta go find the video, but I do plan on playing that sometime, and going back over that. The young man who was fighting that guy at the Horn High School, which it was my daughter's graduation, it just happened at. That was his father he was fighting. Right. The plot thickens, guys. So, it's going down in Texas, guys. It's going down. A lot of weird stuff going on in Texas. But let's go.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. But I don't think any of us knew because he could. And it's his right. Because most of us would say...
Right. Okay. So is a track meet place, is that considered a school, or is that considered a public place? Because she's saying that according to the law. So you're saying that's what is she talking about? Well, show me the law, because according to them, they said, okay, the law. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, let's go.
Hold on. I don't think I would be comfortable with my teen having a knife in their bag. And that's where the defense points them back to the law. It doesn't matter what we think, right? The law is the law. So then he goes on and he says, do any of you as jurors, or how many of you as jurors would be biased?
He actually graduated last year. He actually went to Horn High School. It was his brother's graduation that they got into, that they didn't want him to. It's a long. I'm gonna play it. After this, I'm gonna play it. But yeah, let's go.
How many of you think this law is crazy? Now that you know Karmelo Anthony was not acting in a criminal way, and that him having a knife is lawful, how many of you think this is crazy? You don't like this law? He said, now that you know it's not engaging in criminal activity, how many of you would still tag Karmelo Anthony as being wrong? Well, quite a few jurors took up issue with that. And one gentleman, I do believe, what juror was it? I'll come to that. Juror number 64 says, I don't care about the law. The fact that he had that knife.
I will say this. So several schools holding a track event. You think it's not a school event? Not about a school. It's about, is the location of the track meet a public place? Is it a private location or a public place? If it's a public place, then he can have a knife. He could have a concealed weapon there. That's what they're trying to say. So I don't, I'd have to look into the law about that.
In his backpack, I would still view him as engaging in criminal activity. And that was juror number 64. He was also dismissed today. Okay, so let me go back to the beginning. The government, according to the defense, they pointed out to the potential jurors that the government has a duty of proving their case. That's not the job of the defense. That burden of proof lies on the government. And his question to the jurors is, did you know that? Did you know we don't have to talk? We don't have to ask any questions. We don't have to cross-examine. The burden of proof is on them. Most of the jurors said, no, I was not aware of that. So then he went on to say, well, he was going to transition into a different point, but juror number 269 says, wait a minute, it's going to be hard for me to follow that as a juror in a case like this, because if the defendant doesn't say anything, you mean to tell me he's up for a murder trial and he's not going to testify, or he's not going to explain to us his reasoning why? And so that juror was very honest. They said, I'm not going to be able to put that aside in deliberations.
See, 9 times out of 10, the defendant does not testify on his own behalf. I've never for the most part, I've always seen it that they don't actually have the defendant go up there to testify. I don't know why that is. Probably because they don't want to get caught up and make him look stupid or whatever in front of people. But yeah, that's a normal thing that the defendant is not going to testify. Public schools in a public location, the same thing. Exactly. So I mean, public location, yeah. So according to the law, right? So I don't know. Listen, I'm going on. Listen, I don't kill the messenger. I'm just repeating what she said. Okay.
I'm going to carry that with me, and I'm going to be biased against Karmelo because you're up for murder. What do you mean you're not going to testify? You're not going to speak? And then the defense said, well, I understand that. But my question to you is, that's the law. Are you aware that's the law? They said, I know it now, but I'm still going to be biased because I would want to know why. They go on, and the defense reminds juror number 269, the law says that you cannot take your personal biases into the deliberation room. You have to be able to set it aside. So then the juror said, well, let me ask you a question. Is it up to you or is it up to him to decide if he testifies? The defense said, we make a recommendation, but ultimately it's up to the defendant. It's up to the defendant to decide if they testify. The juror was very savvy. He says, are y'all going to tell us that? Like, if he doesn't testify, are you going to tell us why? Are you going to say he wanted to testify, but I advised him not to? And the defense attorney said, no, we don't give you that information. And that's the thing. You can't make an assumption. That's why we are emphasizing and really, really honing in that you cannot take any biases into the deliberation room with you. And that juror says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Wow. See, here's the thing. P. Diddy didn't testify on his own behalf. If you look at these cases, for the most part, the defendant never testifies on their own behalf. That's a known fact. It shows how much people just do not know about the law and court and this, that, the other. The only reason why I know because I had a DWI and I wasn't able to testify on my own behalf. But yeah. I'm not trying to defend what are you talking about? I'm not trying to defend what he did. I'm just covering the show, covering the information. What are you talking about? Like, that's weird.
I cannot put that aside. So then you have juror number 180, juror number 159 said they both admitted to having personal biases because they said, listen, I think it was juror number 159 said, listen, I don't buy this.
Well, the only thing I want to do is see a fair trial. Okay. It's the Karmelo Anthony case where in Austin Metcalf, the stabbing of the young guy at the track meet in Texas. That's what we're talking about today. Yeah, well, the equal amount of money was given to the other family. So it was a lot of money given to Chud the Builder for shooting up the dude. I mean, we can't go into the black community. We can't go into black and white. See, that's the problem. Everybody want to make this a black and white, and I don't see it as black and white. I see it as two kids fighting and it got out of hand. Somebody did something that he went a little bit too far, you know. So I don't see black and white. I see, but people want to make it black and white. You know what I'm saying? You know how much money was given to him by the black community? Well, how much money was given to Chud the Builder by the white community that just got him out on his $1 million bond after he shot that guy? How much money did they raise? What, close to enough to get him out on $1 million bond? Like, cut it out. And paid his lawyer and everything. Y'all need to cut all that out. Stop it. I don't know. I don't know how much. I think it was like $250 to pay enough to pay for his lawyers. Enough to pay for his lawyer. So, and I think enough to like relocate him because he was getting death threats. So, and we're gonna get into that. We're gonna you guys are gonna see the more. After we get done covering this, we're gonna get into the actual case so you guys can see what happened prior to. So you see why it's so much tension behind this whole thing. But I think that everybody is just like they're not seeing him as a human being. They're just seeing him as a black coward who did this and this, that, the other. But they're not looking at him like a child. I have kids. I can only imagine if my daughter got into it and did something like that. I know my daughter's not a murderer. You understand what I'm saying? That if you in the heat of the moment you do something wrong and you make a mistake and it's a terrible, horrible mistake. But I don't think he went there like I'm gonna stab somebody up today. I don't think that was his intention. He was at a track meet. Let's go.
Not in those words. I'm not buying it. Because if you were innocent, you would be yelling it from the rooftop. So why would you not want to testify? Juror number 168 says, I would need more details from the defense. I know you say it's the law and the burden of proof is on the government to prove their case, but I'm a human being and I'm telling you right now, I would need more information from you to get past my personal opinion. So I can't set that aside. I won't be able to set it aside. Juror number 339 says, I understand the law, but I would definitely expect Karmelo Anthony or you as a defense attorney to make it make sense to me because this is a murder trial, right? Juror number 50. That's a strong potential juror. This is a 20-year combat vet who's recently retired from the military. Oh, he's a strong juror. And the state would be crazy not to take him because he stood up. He said, I understand the law and I'm able to make decisions based on evidence. I took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. I took one oath and I took one vow. And when he said vow, we all started laughing. He means to his wife. And they said, can you follow the rules or instructions? He said, I'm military. It's easy for me to follow instructions. So I think if the government is smart, they're probably going to snag juror number 50 and put him as a juror because he used the buzzwords and he takes his job serious to protect the constitutional right, to protect, I took an oath, and he was using words like that. I said, that's a strong candidate, right? He has not been dismissed yet. Give me 1 second. It's a little windy. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can work this thing out. All right. All right, so then the defense shifts to what is reasonable to you? What is reasonable doubt to you? And no, yeah, that's what he said. He said, it's the government's responsibility to rule out every logically possible reasonable doubt. And if there's one that they have not satisfied, then that would give you the right to vote not guilty, to issue a not guilty verdict. It doesn't matter how minute, how small. If the government, if you just cannot, if they didn't, it could be so small. That means it's not guilty, right? So this is what he's saying to them. Juror number 13 took the mic and said, well, can you give me an example of what a reasonable doubt can be? The defense replied, I can't tell you that. You have to decide that. We, the state, me, the court, we cannot define that for you. The defense then goes to say, under oath, how many of you feel that if Karmelo Anthony does not take the witness stand, that you're going to hold it against Karmelo? Well, juror number 120, number 44, number 126, number 124 says, listen, we're going to hold it against him. If Karmelo Anthony does not take the stand and testify in this self-defense trial or in this murder trial, we are going to hold it against him in that deliberation room. Even if you say it's wrong, we're going to hold it against him.
Wow.
The defense then asked those jurors, can you follow the rules?
Wow. See, and that's because they don't even understand how trials go. Most of the time, the defendant does not. I don't know why. Let me look it up. Why? Why is it that the defendant normally does not? Let me see. Why does the defense usually not let the defendant take the stand? Defense attorneys. Okay, let's look at this. Defense attorneys usually advise defendants not to take the stand because it exposes them to aggressive cross-examination, increases the risk of accidental self-incrimination, and can open the door for prosecution to introduce a defendant's past criminal record to damage their credibility. Okay? So the jurors they don't understand why he would not get up there, because you have a citizen going against a prosecutor who is very savvy, a lawyer, whatever, and knows how to make this person look like a fool. So for the most part, in most criminal cases, the defense normally does not allow the defendant to take the stand. But they're saying that they would hold it against him because they have no idea why the defense, the actual attorneys, would say no, you can't take the stand, because what's going to happen is this prosecutor is going to run circles around you, and then you're going to look crazy in front of everybody. And rather than that, we'll just go off of the details of the case and let people have to guess, like there's a mystery behind you, and it's about the case and not what they think about you, whether you're likable or not, and all these other things. And that also could determine the case. Is if they like you, maybe you answer the question, you get frustrated and you say the wrong thing. Maybe you get mad. Now you look bad in front of the jurors. But you see, the jury has no idea that that's the case and why. So they're like, hey, why wouldn't he take the stand? Because that's and the defense couldn't just say, hey, the reason why is because,
If the law is you can't hold it against him and he doesn't have the burden of proof of taking a stand, even if it doesn't seem logical, you don't need both sides in a criminal case. The government, has the burden of proof? Those jurors did not change their mind. And when I tell you they stood on business, they said, it doesn't matter what you're saying. I am going to carry a bias into that deliberation room. So if Karmelo Anthony doesn't want to talk, if Karmelo Anthony thinks he's going to sit here and not testify, you better not pick me. You better not pick me. And I can tell you, I do believe all of them have been dismissed. Okay? Not all of them, but quite a few. I'm sorry. Quite a few of them have been dismissed. So then the defense said, let's talk about why a person would not testify if they are being accused of murder.
All right, because this is what this is really getting down to, because they don't understand that the jury has no idea why a person would not testify on their own behalf if they're accused of murder. But the bottom line is that all the defense have to do is to prove that he did not it was not murder. It was probably something else, probably would not. But if he gets up on the stand, it's not about whether all the defense case that they built up. The prosecutor could just destroy their case just because of how they make him look. Maybe they get him to get a little angry. Maybe he gets an attitude, and then the whole case goes out the window about that, because now the jury is not looking at the facts of the case. They're looking on whether or not they like him or not. You understand? So why would you set your client to go against a prosecutor that could just tear you apart? That might be 20 years. You know what I'm saying? He would get Charleston chewed if he got up there and did that. But they don't understand that these people are so green. Rich people from out in Collin County ain't never been to court in their life. Let's go.
So a few of the jurors gave examples. Some of the examples were, maybe they're not good presenters. Maybe some of them are not as eloquent in speaking. Maybe some of them clam up, big crowds, whatever. Juror number 12 says, well, it doesn't matter to me why you wouldn't. How come you wouldn't stand up for yourself, basically, as a man? And what I was able to really quickly assess is many of the women seem to identify and understand why Karmelo Anthony may not testify, but a great majority of the men seem to take issue with it. A great majority of the men, that doesn't sit right with them, and they shared that openly. So on one side, you have an empathetic group of women that said, he's a kid, I can understand. Sometimes people don't present as well, but then you have these men, right, that have served this country, men that have different backgrounds that are saying, but why would you not defend yourself? What do y'all think about that?
He's a kid. He's 17 years old. He just turned 18. He might be 19 now, I think. And he has had no prior legal experience. He haven't been to prison before, jail or nothing like that. He's an athlete straight out of high school going into a criminal trial that ends up that the actual sentence could be life in prison. I don't even think Nature Boy with his whole thing testified. He got to say some things at the last part, but what he said, you see how what he said ended up getting him life in prison? If anyone followed the Nature Boy trial, he ain't say nothing that whole thing. He didn't testify, nothing. But when it was the final statements and he had a chance to make a statement, I think he said something wrong to the judge. The judge was like, you know what, I was going to give you a smaller case, but because you said that, life in prison. Do you see how that could go wrong? That because if he just would have just been quiet and just said, you know, whatever, it would have been cool. But because he kind of like was lashing out and whatever, it got him life in prison. So saying the wrong thing at a trial like that could cost you your life. So, and these people don't understand that because they've probably never been to court, never been to prison, never did nothing. They never had to go through this. So their mind is like, well, why wouldn't he testify? Because they don't understand the legal process. Who's lying? No, she said she's just covering what the people with the jurors, why the juror was like, why can't he testify? You know, they don't understand. They don't understand why he wouldn't testify. And I'm like, no, if I was his defense, I wouldn't let him testify either. He's going to get ripped apart. He's only like 19 years old. He's never had to do trial on nothing in his life. He didn't go to juvenile. He didn't, you know, he is just a kid that made a jacked up, spur of the moment decision that cost him this situation here. And he don't know how to represent himself. I'm sorry. They said he was huffing and puffing and doing all this stuff. You got to make sure that that when you sitting there, you ain't looking too much, doing too much. Just sitting next to the lawyer, because the jurors are looking at you every time somebody says they're looking at you, looking at the person. They're looking at your body language. So imagine getting on a stand and saying the wrong thing. They have no idea.
Okay, so we talked about the Texas law, and you have a constitutional right. You know what? I got to come back to that you have a constitutional right to carry a knife. I knew that subconsciously, but I think we were all baffled if we tell the truth, right? If we just sit here and have a reasonable conversation, I think that was the number one question for most of us, no matter what side of the fence you sit on. Why did the kid have a knife in his bag? And I'm glad the defense said it doesn't matter why. He didn't break the law. Publicly, he can carry a knife, just like you can carry a gun, even if he is a teenager. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. I never looked at it like that.
Hey, listen,
that is not.
If y'all want to come up and make a statement, come up.
And like I said,
hey, listen, the link is in the chat. If y'all want to come up and say something, please feel free to hit the link because I got it in the chat. So y'all can come up and say whatever y'all want to say.
I try not to give too much thought and have too much of a personal opinion because I want to come in this thing and get the facts, right? I feel like there's a lot missing from this case. And I try not to listen to social media because I feel like many of you say a lot of things based on your own personal biases and your own prejudice. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go to that courtroom. I need to hear the facts. I need to hear the evidence. And part of the evidence is the law. Damn, he can carry a knife. All right. All right. So what else? I talked about the prosecution being able to articulate well. I think Mike Howard, this is what I think the defense may have a challenge with. Mike Howard is going up against the state. And I believe this is a damn good prosecutor. This is just my personal opinion, right? This is me being able to read the room. I think he has his work cut out for him. If we're just talking legal strategy, state versus defense. And Mike, I don't know if y'all are listening, you're going to have to be able to articulate a little bit better. You're going to have to be able to make it make sense. You're going to have to be able to.
Honey, this defense is probably going to be the thing. If he don't got some good defense lawyers, because breaking news, if you guys are not aware of it, that the jury has actually been selected in the Karmelo Anthony trial. The supporters are angry with this, what she says, Sarah Fields, because there are no African Americans on the jury. 0. And also, up until now, we were under the impression the jury would be sequestered. They were not sequestered. That means jurors will return home each day rather than being isolated for the duration of the trial. So they will be privy to any news that comes up and all the different things. So, you know, hey, I don't know. It's going to be really up to the judge. I don't know. Based on what's being said here, I don't know.
To present it where it's clear, it's easy to understand, and it's straightforward, okay? The defense, Mike Howard, then went to no duty to retreat. And basically, When he talked about the self-defense is similar to stand your ground, right? You don't have a duty to retreat in an area that you have a right to be in. Although you, tuned in, and me may say, you know what, I'm gonna just walk away to de-escalate things. He says, but the law doesn't require you to retreat. So his question then to the jury is, how many of you feel that folks should walk away and not stand their ground? Oh my God, we got some trolls. And a few people said, I believe you should walk away. And he said, would you follow the law? Oh, another bug, sorry. If the law says you don't have to walk away and you can stand your ground, would you, just because you would walk away, would you hold it against somebody else? Or would you hold it against other jurors to try to convince them that they should do what you would have done? Juror number 772 said, listen, a white male, he said, I'm not keen on conflict. I would walk away. I would walk away. So the defense asked him, would you expect everybody else to walk away? Juror number 199 says, I can't accept that law. I can't accept that law. And I know the law says that you can stand your ground. You don't have to leave to de-escalate, but I think I would hold a bias in the deliberation room. Juror number 259, he raised a question around self-defense. He said, hold on, let me make sure I say it right. He says, if we go with self-defense, does that make it no longer murder? Does that mean that Karmelo or the person would not be guilty of murder? Does that mean that I would have to believe that Karmelo Anthony was defending himself? That was a really good question. The defense switched his strategy. And he says, I have a question on my PowerPoint around immigration law. And although this trial is not about immigration law, I have a question for you all. What is your attitude? What is your feeling around the current immigration policies in the United States of America from a scale of 1 to 10? 1 means I love it. 10 means it's bad. I don't like it. They asked him to clarify it. Wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Immigration law? It doesn't make sense. Can you make it make sense for us? He said, yeah. With the recent ICE behavior, activities, the recent enforcements by ICE, you had some very extreme answers. I'll just randomly call out some. Number 22 said, I love our immigration laws.
Oh,
I'll give it a 1. Remember, 1 means I love it. 10 means I hate it. Number 27 said, I don't feel comfortable giving you a number. I need more information. I need to know where you're trying to go with this. Juror number 5 says, I'm going to say 8. Juror number 2 says, I'm going to give it a 5. Juror number 43 says 10, 48 says 6, 37 said 7, so on and so forth. Then they went to the punishment phase, and he started talking about punishment. And in the state of Texas, it could range anywhere from 5 to 99 years, but the state is asking for the higher end of punishment. And he says, how many of you would focus on the lower end of the punishment? How many of you cannot consider 5 years as a minimum? If a life has been lost and you have to consider 5 to 99 years, how many of you would not be open to the lower end? Surprisingly enough, let me say this. There weren't many objections to that from the jury. I was shocked. Many of them said they would be okay. Watch this. The consensus was many of them shared that they would be okay with 5 years, but they would not be okay with 2 years. Well, how do we get to 2 years? Because what the defense introduced that the state did not introduce is he said there could be lesser charges, and the judge is going to give you that charge. And if that charge is manslaughter, right? In the state of Texas, if you have no prior felonies and the lesser charge is manslaughter, are you aware that you could probate this sentence with probation? So with manslaughter, you can look anywhere from 2 to 20 years. But as a jury, you can come back and say, hey, judge, let's not send him to prison. Let's give him probation. How many of you would be okay with 2 years on a lesser charge?
no.
This is where we got some pushback. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So this is where juror number 19 says, let me tell you something. I don't care about what evidence you were able to present in this court.
Well,
It's an insult to give somebody 2 years for taking a life. I would never be okay with 2 years. It's too light. That was number 19.
but he said it would be a manslaughter. That means so the jury doesn't even understand the difference between murder and manslaughter. That's crazy. I mean, it's interesting, but it's wow.
Juror number 142 said, I don't care about your circumstances, self-defense or whatever. I'm not giving you 2 years. I feel that, well, you would deserve more. So they said, okay. Then they get to, give me 1 second. Number 43. Juror number 43 says that is absolutely too low. Listen to this. He says, because my cousin got locked up for DWI and only got 1 year. He said his cousin got locked up for a DWI and only got 1 year. What the hell you mean? Give him 2 years for murder. He said he couldn't consider it, and they struck him. He's dismissed. I can tell you that as a fact. Number 43 has been dismissed. Okay, so the defense clarified manslaughter. Manslaughter can include probation as a punishment with no prison time. He says, for manslaughter, 10 years or less, the jury can probate that sentence to probation and or place the defendant in jail for up to 180 days. They were so confused. They did not like that at all. They had a really bad response to the possibility of probation and going home. So he really had his work cut out with trying to explain, if you give Karmelo Anthony a lesser charge of manslaughter, that would be 10 years or less, basically he would qualify for a probation. Would you be open to that? I don't know. They didn't like it. The defense went on to ask, how many of you will violate the order not to talk about this case? Everybody said, you know what, if I'm selected, I can do a good job. I'm not going to violate. I can go home and not look to social media. I don't have to talk to my neighbor about the case. At this point, listen, so when he was asking this, at this point, Karmelo Anthony turned his head toward the main camera. See, just like those of you that are tuned in, I don't know Karmelo Anthony. I don't live in McKinney, Texas. I'm not from this area. I've only seen things on social media, right, as it relates to his photos. But when he turned his head to the main camera, I got a really good look at him. He looks really young. I didn't understand the line of questioning this morning from some of the jurors as it.
Man, let me just say this. No, that jury is in one of the richest counties in Texas. They're not driving pickup trucks and toothpicks. They're driving Mercedes Benzes and you know what I'm saying, and Land Rovers. Right? They got huge houses out there. You understand what I'm saying? $500,000 houses. This is not bumfuck Egypt. This is like rich white town America. This is where the rich people, like the, you know, making at least 100, 200, I would say $200,000 a year households, you know, that's where he's being tried by that's why they don't even understand, like what do you mean he don't get to, they've never been to court, never been nowhere near a court. If there was some toothpicks out there, those probably were the ones that got struck earlier. You know what I'm saying? The ones that are left are people that probably got money.
Related to his age. How old is he? He's just a kid. He's just a kid. Well, that's because I couldn't see his face like they could. But when he turned towards that camera, I'm going to tell you how old he looked to me. 14 to 16 years old. He does look like he is a kid, but he looks really, really young. So what I think is going to happen for both sides.
Can I just say, before she says what she thinks is going to happen, let's go into Sarah Fields, right? So Sarah Fields, who is a really big person, you know, in this whole thing, reporter, you know, she is really about like the, conservative media. The first thing that she said is, he's not a child. He's 19. When he did it, he was 17. Okay. So she's even holding it against him that he's 19. It's like he's 19 now, because it takes about a couple of years before they actually try a case, you know, but they didn't try the case when it happened. It took 2 years for them to even try this case. And she's like, no, he's 19. You see what's happening here? But it's about to get real ugly out here. I don't know if y'all see it, but oh my God, let's go.
What I'm able to summarize based on my experience of living, they're not okay with 2 years. They don't seem to be okay with probation, but they also don't seem to want, and I'm just guessing, I'm telling you what I'm picking up, him to go away for many, many years.
Honey, they don't give a fuck. They don't care.
That's a challenge for both the defense and the state. You're not getting 2 years based on some of the reactions, right?
No,
But you may not get life based on some of
the ones that felt that way got struck early on in the game. They already said they didn't want to do it. They got struck. So he's left with a jury of people that's like, yeah, he shouldn't get no less than X amount. They already got it in their mind. No, he murdered somebody. He gonna go to jail. So, I mean, we gotta brace yourselves, guys.
the reaction. So those are two extremes. Probation, they didn't seem to be okay with that. They seemed to be offended with the thought of probation. Okay. But his face, and I think a part of the reason they're not okay with the life sentence that the state is asking them to consider is because he is a kid. His face is very, very young. Why is this important? Because I'm giving you all of the details that's happening in the courtroom because you're not there. And I want you to have a full scope of what's happening, what they may be thinking, what they're getting a chance to see, what he's looking like, what the facial expressions are, who's pushing back, who's not pushing back. So I thought that was important to share with you. I did write this note. I said, you can definitely tell he's a kid. I didn't get a good angle this morning. The potential jurors, whom are women with children, may have a hard time sending him to prison. The men don't seem like they have a hard time with the punishment. The question is going to, I believe the question is going to be, what is the right amount of punishment? The defense also prepped the jury. He said, listen, some of you have an issue with defense attorneys, you know, and with trials like this, we can be very passionate. We can get very angry in the trial. He said, I'm going to tell you, as this case takes off, there's going to be very young witnesses. I'm going to be tough on them. I'm probably going to be very passionate with them. I'm probably going to be hard on them. That's on me, not on Karmelo. If I am tough on some of these very young witnesses, how many of you will hold that against Karmelo? I wrote, number 51 said, well, did he? Yeah, number 51 said he probably would. But everybody else said, we understand. We're not going to take that out on Karmelo. If you're tough on the younger witnesses. So that, I'm like, whoa, who's coming to testify, right? That's basically what we have today. What do you guys think? So right now they're finalizing the final jurors. Let me tell you who was dismissed today, if you want to take a note. All right. The state, both the defense and the state, agreed to release jurors number 150 and higher. So if you were 150 and higher, they were dismissed today, excused today. They also excused juror number 13, juror number 14, number 19, number 41, number 42, number 43, number 46, 64, 68, and 70. Now, I made some notes. And this is the stuff that you sometimes can't get, right? From the big news stations. They just don't have that kind of time to get that detail. Number 43 is a juror that said that 2 years is too low because his cousin got locked up for 1 year for a DWI. Number 19 is also the juror who said that 2 years is too low, no matter what evidence you present, no matter what your self-defense is. Number 13 is the juror that asked for an example of a reasonable doubt. Number 64 is a juror that believes Karmelo Anthony engaged in criminal activity by carrying a knife to the school. Y'all got it? They got rid of them. They're out of here. So 13, 14, 19, 41, 42, 43, 46, 64, 68 is out of here, and 70. 150 and higher, they're out of here. So I think they dwindled it down right now to 75. They're taking a 45-minute break right now. And then we're going to find out who the jurors are going to be. And I'm going to come back and wrap up that later on this evening. Let's see what questions y'all may have. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
All right. So that is pretty much what's going on with where we were at. So before we go any further with this, let's go back. Let's take a little bit of time to kind of let me see. Let's kind of, I'm not sure whether I should go into the self-defense or go into he admitted it. Let's go into Fox News real quick because I think that let's hear what they got to say. Let's go.
There's a lot of concerns when it comes to jury selection and something that's high profile. You've always got your high profile concerns about, has anybody developed opinions about this, or what are people's thoughts? This case in particular has a lot of disturbing history when it comes to misinformation online, rumors, doxing, things like that. One of the previous judges had to get the FBI involved because of threats to her. Have people already heard of this case? Have they already formed opinions? Collin County is a bigger place. I think we have close to 1 million residents. So I do think we'll be able to seat a jury, but it is going to take a little bit of work. Once they seat a jury, that's going to be a lot of work. I would anticipate that's going to be multiple days. But I think the most important part of really any kind of trial are going to be opening statements. Studies show that 80% of jurors formulate their opinions of the overall case during opening statement, and they do not change their mind for the entirety of the trial after that. So opening statement is going to be really critical. In jury selection, it is going to be a couple days. You can't win a case in jury selection, but you can lose a case by putting people on the panel who don't need to be there. And really, I think all the marbles are on the table when it comes to opening statements. Murder cases really fit into multiple categories. And this one certainly fits into one that you would really sort of think about whether or not this is self-defense. That's going to be, I think, the central issue. And another central issue is going to be, is it manslaughter or is it homicide? You get a lot of different types of murder cases. You get Luigi Mangione, where the issue is this premeditated? And if so, how premeditated is it? How far does the planning go back? Is somebody trying to scheme for something bigger, like an insurance policy or something like that? I don't think anybody thinks for a minute that this case fits into those categories, but that doesn't make a difference really to the victim's family. They lost their son. So the issues in this case are going to be more about the events as they happened that day. Everything really in the immediacy of those few hours are really, really going to be crucial, where, as again, compared to Tyler Robinson or Luigi Mangione, you're really looking at a longer history of leading up to that event. So I think you're going to see a lot of localized focus on the people who are there, on the hours that really surrounded that one incident. Self-defense is a really intricate defense that you have to sort of set up. It's what's called confession and avoidance. What that means is that you have to admit to the conduct in order to get that defense. The crux of the issue is that you cannot provoke the harm and then retreat behind self-defense. So really what you're going to see the central issue be is, was Karmelo Anthony, did he initially provoke that harm? Did he initially elevate that and then it was in a situation to defend himself? Because if that's the situation, then he might not necessarily be entitled to a self-defense instruction from the judge. So again,
see, this is where it gets sticky at, is because if it's raining outside and you go up underneath the person's tent, that's the rival team, is that considered provoking? Like, what is provoking? Like, if you go somewhere and they say, hey, you're not welcome here, you got to go somewhere else in a public place, can that be considered provoking if you don't leave that like area? That's what's going to be under question in this whole situation. Is a very tricky and sticky situation here.
You're going to hear some different accounts of who said what, who was standing where, and who did what. But ultimately, it's going to be a very, very intricate question to see whether or not the judge in this case issues that self-defense instruction to the jury. And again, it's going to turn on, did Karmelo Anthony initially provoke the harm? Did he initially elevate the tenseness or the threat in the situation? And then was he retreating back into self-defense, or did the victim provoke it? And if so, then it's a more of an issue when it comes to self-defense.
All right, and so well, this is really a sad case to cover, to be quite honest. But let's get into it. So let's talk about the jury that they got. Let's go.
500 people were on the list of potential jurors, but the jury will not include anyone who is Black, despite this case being racially charged. Fox 4's Alex Boyer joining us now. Alex.
Hey guys, good evening. That's right. And I can tell you that a court spokesperson confirmed that there are indeed no Black jurors on this panel. And I can tell you that before this jury panel was seated, the defense objected to 3 Black women being struck by the prosecution. Now, the prosecution contended that it was due to the fact that the women were educators, noting that this incident happened at a school function with young students. The defense then pointed out that those were three of those were 100% of the available black jurors in what's called the strike zone, adding that the state struck all three. The judge went out and reviewed their questionnaires and came back and said that the defense's challenge to the three jurors being dismissed was denied. The judge said the court found that the state had non-racial means to strike the jurors. Now, background, Karmelo Anthony, 17 at the time, is accused of fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf last year at a Frisco ISD track meet. Anthony was reportedly sitting under a tent for a school that he did not attend. Witnesses say the two got into an argument and Anthony stabbed Metcalf in the chest. Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms. Police said that Anthony told them he acted in self-defense. Now, this case has become racially charged, fueled in large part by online speculation, rumors, and misinformation. On Wednesday, attorneys for both sides got an hour and 45 minutes to question the reduced poll of these potential jurors. They were questioned on their views on a variety of topics, including race, how they felt about serving on this case, and if they would hold it against the defendant if he chose not to testify on his own behalf. The defense also tried to gauge if the potential jurors would be uncomfortable giving Anthony a lower sentence if there is a guilty verdict. I talked to a jury consultant about the process so far.
It's an excellent team on both sides. I believe Bill Worski has, he's a veteran prosecutor. He's tried some very high-profile cases. And then Toby Shook has been both a prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. And then Mike Howard is an excellent criminal defense attorney as well. And they, along with the DA, it's going to be a very well-tried case.
And I did speak with Allison Richardson before the jury was sat, so I did not have a chance to ask her about these late-breaking developments. Now, this high-profile case continues to draw supporters and spectators to the Collin County Courthouse. We saw another group of folks demonstrating at the entrance of the courthouse this afternoon. We expect that to continue throughout the trial, which the judge hopes to have wrapped up by the end of next week. And I can tell you that 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony was in court today for the proceedings. He was wearing a suit with a tie and a purple shirt, which is also the color many of his supporters have been wearing. He did take some notes during the proceedings. I can also tell you that there does appear to be some minorities on this jury panel. Again, however, none of them are African American. Opening statements begin tomorrow at 9 a.m. Back to you.
Okay, Alex Boyer in Frisco, thanks.
And a reminder, Fox 4 will bring you extensive coverage of the Karmelo Anthony trial. You can keep up with the latest court developments on fox4news.com, our socials, and the free Fox Local app.
All right, guys. So that is what we have so far about this trial. This is going to be a very, very, polarizing event. And we're going to be here to cover it. I hope that you guys like the coverage so far. We do have some people on the ground. I'm waiting on my people to get there. I think that Mel's supposed to be there by tomorrow. And we should be able to get some information from Naked Knight. And so those are like the two people, as well as Queen. We're like really supporting the content creators on the ground. We'll do a little bit of like local news, but I really want to hear from content creators. They're gonna get down to the nitty. We're gonna like get detailed, the news is just gonna give you like a small little 1-2 about it summary, but you're gonna get the details when you deal with the content creators that I'm gonna be covering. So much love, guys. Thank you guys for being here for this. Shouts out and peace.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better life. Just know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. That's right. Only you can make the change. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to light. and you.